Good morning, students. How are you all? Fine? Okay. Today in science, we are going to see an interesting topic. So, first let us watch a video. Students, watch this video very carefully. There are some questions in between. You can answer then and there itself. Okay? Now, first, we will go to the video.
Ecosystem is a community of living organisms interacting with each other and the environment around them. Ecosystems are built from plants upwards as they harness CO2 and water. And using the sun's energy, plants create energy-containing molecules which are carbohydrates. This is why they are often referred to as primary producers or autotrophs within the ecosystem. These molecules provide energy for all living organisms in an ecosystem. All other.
There is a question for you, students. What are primary producers? Options are here: animals, plants, non-living things. You can select your option and continue with the video.
All other organisms that do not photosynthesize are considered consumers or heterotrophs. Many molecules, along with energy, are cycled in an ecosystem as organisms transfer them from one individual to another. One of the most typical transfers is when one organism consumes another. The molecules and energy that made up the consumed organism is either lost as heat or expelled, such as carbon dioxide or excreted nitrogenous waste, and the remaining molecules are integrated into the consuming organism's biomass. Cycles are often completed by death and decay, which is vital for all organisms as they return many vital nutrients to the producers and the atmosphere. Ecosystems are incredibly dynamic as populations of organisms increase and decrease and climatic conditions always alter. Some ecosystems can be very stable in that they change very little over long periods of time. Generally, the more diverse an ecosystem is, the more stable it will be. Sometimes the only event that will alter these ecosystems is a natural disaster, such as an earthquake or a volcanic eruption, or even a large-scale fire. Worry not though, ecosystems recover over time.
There is another question for you, students. What are the biotic organisms you have seen in this ecosystem? For example, like lion, you have to type your answer here and then continue with the video.
Over time. Coral reefs are.
Now I hope you have watched this video. Now let me ask you some questions. When biotic and abiotic factors are put together, what do they form? Yes, when biotic and abiotic factors are put together, they form the ecosystem. How do plants survive in this ecosystem? Plants are known as autotrophs. So they produce the food by themselves. So they survive in the ecosystem. What are the essential things that are required for the plants to live? Yes, sunlight, carbon dioxide, water and nutrients. Yes. What happens when these nutrients become higher in concentration in the atmosphere? The nutrients, when it becomes higher in concentration, it can be harmful to the plants and animals. So it should be balanced in the atmosphere. Why do farmers put manures and fertilizers to these plants? They put manures and fertilizers to these plants to grow healthy. So students always try to buy fruits and vegetables from the local market so that you are solving the poverty of farmers. If you buy it from the local market rather than from a mall, the farmers can earn their living. So try to buy it from the local markets. Okay, what are all the nutrients that are present in the atmosphere that are essential for the plants? Yes, phosphorus, nitrogen, potassium, and these are essential for plants. These nutrients are very important for plants. So today we are going to see and learn the various stages of nitrogen cycle. First, let us see the definition of nitrogen cycle. The nitrogen cycle is a process by which nitrogen is converted between its various chemical forms. This transformation can be carried out through both biological and physiological process. The definition states that the nitrogen in the atmosphere has to be converted into its various chemical forms. By the help of biological means with the help of microorganisms, and physical means with the help of electrical discharge during thundering and lightning. How the nitrogen is converted. Students, tell me how much of percentage of nitrogen is present in the atmosphere? Yes, 78% of nitrogen is present in the atmosphere. But you have to think it critically that this much amount of nitrogen is present in the atmosphere, but still the plants and animals cannot use this. It has to be converted into nitrogenous compounds so that plants and animals can use it. Now next we are going to see forms of nitrogen. There are two different forms. One is organic nitrogen, ammonium, nitrite, nitrate, nitrous oxide and nitric oxide. These are the organic forms of nitrogen. Inorganic form of nitrogen is nitrogen gas. Now let us see the various stages of nitrogen cycle. First one, nitrogen fixation, nitrogen assimilation, ammonification, nitrification, denitrification and sedimentation. First let us see nitrogen fixation. There are two different types of nitrogen fixation. One is biological fixation and the other is non-biological fixation. The conversion of free nitrogen in atmosphere into the biologically acceptable form or nitrogenous compounds is called as biological fixation. It means the free nitrogen in the atmosphere is converted into nitrogenous compounds by certain organisms, and those organisms, microorganisms, are symbiotic bacteria, blue-green algae and some free-living bacteria that are able to fix nitrogen as organic nitrogen. But remember students, not all plants fix nitrogen through this process. There are some plants which do not produce nitrogen fixation through this process. This biological fixation takes place only in leguminous plants. This is an example of leguminous plants where you can see symbiotic bacteria, blue-green algae and free-living bacteria. This is a picture of root nodules of a leguminous plant. Means, for example, pea plant. Rhizobium, a symbiont. Rhizobium bacteria, where I have highlighted, is present in association with this leguminous plant. It has the ability to take atmospheric nitrogen and convert it into a soluble form. These bacteria live in the roots of leguminous plants. Now tell me students, what are symbiotic relationship? Symbiotic relationship means it is a relationship that takes place between two species. For example, plant is a different species and bacteria is a different species, but they both have a relationship, symbiotic relationship. They benefit each other. So like rhizobium and leguminous plants, we should also have a good interpersonal relationship with our peer groups, family members, and with the neighbors so that we can bring up well in the society. There is a game for you students. This is very interesting. Go to this link. Now we have seen biological fixation, nitrogen fixation. So this is a game that is related to nitrogen fixing bacteria. Okay. There are some words related to nitrogen fixing bacteria are given here, like symbiotic, acetobacter, rhizobium, nitrogen, and blue green algae. You have to find it in this puzzle. It is quite interesting. So go to the link and do it. What is the name of this plant? Yes, this is groundnut. How do they fix nitrogen? With the help of a bacterium. What bacterium is involved in fixing? Rhizobium, because it is a leguminous plant. That is why rhizobium is involved in fixing nitrogen. Now comes the next non-biological fixation. In this process, atmospheric nitrogen combines with oxygen during lightning or electrical discharge in clouds and produces different oxides. This means the nitrogen present in the atmosphere combines with oxygen during lightning and produce different oxides. The next stage of nitrogen cycle is nitrogen assimilation. It is a formation of organic nitrogen compounds like amino acids from inorganic nitrogen compounds present in the environment. This means assimilation of nitrogen from inorganic nitrogen compounds present in the environment, means in the soil. Organisms like plants, fungi, and certain bacteria that cannot fix nitrogen gas depends on the ability to assimilate either nitrate or ammonia for their needs. Those plants or fungi or bacteria that cannot fix nitrogen gas will assimilate for their needs. That is called as nitrogen assimilation. The next stage is nitrogen ammonification. In this process of releasing ammonia by certain microorganisms utilizing organic compounds derived from dead organic remains of plants and animals. Through this process, ammonia is released. How it is released? By the help of microorganisms. What do? They utilize organic compounds from where? From the organic dead remains of plants and animals, and the organisms involved are actinomycetes and bacilli. This is a dead mouse. What happens in that? The organisms act on this dead mouse and they convert the organic compounds of this mouse into ammonia. So they release ammonia into the atmosphere. That is known as nitrogen ammonification. The next stage is nitrification. Nitrification is a process of oxidation of ammonia to nitrate by certain microorganisms in soil and ocean. Example of this nitrifying bacteria are Nitrosomonas and Nitrobacter. What do? It helps in the oxidation of ammonia to nitrate. The next stage is denitrification and sedimentation. It is the reduction of nitrates back into the atmosphere largely as inert nitrogen gas. This helps in the reduction of nitrates through a cyclic process into a molecular nitrogen that is released back into the atmosphere. The next stage is sedimentation. Sometimes nitrates of soil are locked up in the rocks. How they are locked up? While they are leached away or washed away down to the sea, they get deposited on the rocks, and this phenomena is known as sedimentation. Sedimentation is a deposition of nitrates on the rock. This is a schematic difference representation of nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen fixation by nitrogen fixing bacteria, they convert into ammonia. After that, they are acted upon by nitrifying bacteria and convert into nitrates, and from nitrates they are converted into the molecular nitrogen that are released into the atmosphere. So this takes place in a cyclic manner to maintain the balance of nitrogen in the atmosphere. Now students, you have learnt about nitrogen cycle. There are many microorganisms involved in the conversion of atmospheric nitrogen into nitrogenous compounds. As microorganisms causes dreadful diseases, but in the other sense, they are also helpful for us in making the nitrogen released into the atmosphere. So students, tell me the uses of nitrogen. Nitrogen is used as a main important component of cell. Number 2, it enriches the soil. It fertilizes the soil. It decomposes the dead plants and animal. Thereby, it purifies the environment. So now we have learned the various stages of nitrogen cycle and its uses. Now let us see how much you have learnt. Go to this link. There is once again an interesting game. Students, match the various stages of nitrogen cycle with their names. with their images and with their names. I will
Layer
throw
of
an
gases.
example.
Animal excreta.
So it is matched. This is very interesting. So go to the link and play this game. Application of nitrogen cycle. Student, draw the various stages of nitrogen cycle in a cyclic manner. After one stage, go to the another stage and label it neatly. Label all the parts which is named here. You have to draw it in your notebook. Homework. Student, collect the sources of nitrogen from both natural and human resources. Collect information and gather it for future use. Now, I hope you have enjoyed learning these various stages of nitrogen cycle and uses and the importance of nitrogen. Without that, plants, animals and human beings cannot survive in this ecosystem. Thank you so much. You have learnt about nitrogen cycle. Thank you.